All right. Yeah, sounds good. Welcome to the very last video um, in this series where I explain my model, how I see price. As I mentioned now, I just want to get all the videos out because I promised a lot of you guys that I was going to get all these videos out as soon as possible. So you can study them if you want to, or if you don't want to, just want to watch something, you know, that is not making you dumber, but rather maybe it can spark like an idea or some kind of interest in it, and maybe you can apply something to how you yourself see price. Um, Today's video will be focused around the numbers 4 and 5, together with understanding how everything is fit together, how there are how they are all basically interconnected, how they basically function together, how they move, and how they basically act together and interact with each other. Because until this point, I've explained it as easy as I can. Now we'll go into the autism mode. Okay. So if you do not understand it okay or decent, or understand just out of your mind, like super quickly understand how it's all fitted together, or how the characteristics are between number one, what that number's job is, what number two's job is, what the shit show level is, what the number three is. I really advise you go back and watch the first, second, and third video. I can't emphasize that enough, because if you don't, you will most likely get screwed. Because now I will start to, number one, explain what the 4 and 5 is doing for me, and that is very, very, very much key to how I see price, because that's how they're all interconnected into a huge circle. Okay. I did not take this setup, by the way. I just didn't like the way it looked. It was just kind of disgusting. I was kind of targeting this level. Also, something I will be potentially teaching on further. Like, I bunch of more advanced stuff into seeing the different shit show levels, and you don't need that complicating things. It's really you can make it as simple as possible. Through the videos, you will be extremely profitable, or that's at least in my opinion. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor, and go down into the description and look into that. So I'm just doing this for educational purposes, trying to help with what I know, and I'm doing this, let's say, for a hobby, right? Um, the SS Plus is just something advanced that I'm teaching some students. I've been talking to V about it a lot. You might apply it at times. It's more or less a intuition thing, where you understand that some SS levels are stronger than others. Um, Therefore, you see the reactions up towards it and then away from it. But that's more when you start to understand the whole baseline information about all of this. What, as I said, want to go over now is simply um, we understand the pattern, right? We have now understood what number one's job is. If you cannot answer that question, you're dumbass if you're still sitting here. You have to go back into the first video, because I literally explain it. It's not hard to understand what it does. You also know what number two's job is. If you don't, go back to the second video, restart. Everything has to be super, super tightly understood, otherwise you'll get screwed. Okay? And the reason why is because now when I go back into this even harder and stronger and more autism focused, right? You have to follow along with what I'm saying all the time. You can't be like, wait, what did this do now? Or what did this do now? If that is something that is happening to you currently, go back to watch the videos. I'm also watching the viewing count. And depending on how it goes, I want to see the first video video to have first, second, and third video to have the most amount of views, not this one, okay? That will tell me enough. Go back and watch the first and second video if you haven't understood what they are doing. Same thing works with number 3, the most simple video, but also the hardest to understand. Okay? You have to understand this as well. Now we're running back into number 4 and 5. Right. The number 4 and 5 for me gives me, in their characteristics, basically direction. Number 4 and 5 is what tells me what the next sequence is going to be. I will easily spot it. I will understand where we're heading and why. And these numbers, I would say personally, I wouldn't necessarily trade these numbers. Okay, why wouldn't I trade these numbers? Because these are my most uncertain numbers, and I talked about that in the third video about uncertainty and probabilities, right? The number 4 and 5 is created when a shit show is ran. 2 scenarios here, okay? We can either, let's say number 3 plays out and it takes out that low immediately. Now the number 4 and 5 is created, okay? But if price moves, let's say like this, moves away from it and takes out this high, which is a what? A SS level, right? From way back over here somewhere, right? We take out that shit show level, right? On the upside. What happens here is that it does not, listen to that, it does not count as a 4 and 5. When you take out a shit show level that is way back, that is left out on the chart, like way back, right? I'm not talking like, oh, we go up number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 3 does this and goes down. Then number 4 and 5 will be created. I'm talking about we go here, we go down here, and we hit something that is over here, that is left out way behind on like a huge different price leg or whatever as a POY. Okay? If that happens, this here is not a 4 and 5. It will not give you direction. It will not tell you that we're going up and down. That is not it. Okay? But when this plays out right here, then the 4 and 5 is created. Why do I call it 4 and 5? Because I do not really care what is happening here. And why am I not so specific? Yeah, because it can go like this and still go up. And I don't like that. I want a quick tap and a go. I don't want to sit around here, mess around with the markets, and just wait for something to appear or happen, or hopefully happens, right? I want the most explosive levels of price, right? So, for example, when I'm talking about explosive levels of price, I'm talking about, right, this is my entry point, and this is my exit point. I sat in it for like 2 minutes. Did I take out my profits pre-target? Yes, because I would rather take a lot of money rather than be correct. It can go up in here and then fail easily. But I knew this was an SS level. That's why I targeted that level. And I knew that if we go down here, we have something to bounce on to go where? Up. Number 3 tells you what you're looking for, right? And this right here is a number 3. This is a 2. And this is a 1. This is a 4 and 5 that runs lower. And we now fail. We're potentially bullish to go up higher if we run down into this level or this level or something. I don't know. I'm not as focused on that, and right now I need to be really in sync with the market to really make calls like that. But I might head back down into here to start heading somewhat to the upside here, which is not really the ideal, but whatever. What I need to tell you is just that the 4 and 5 gives you direction of where we're going. Okay, how do we do that? How does everything tie together? We know that number 1 is a number 3. We know that number 3 is a 1. We know that number 2 is a 4 and a 5. And we know that a 4 or 5 is a number 2, right? So, based on that information, there's one single thing that can stop price forever going sideways. One single scenario that can stop price and tell you where it's going. Because it can manipulate price forever if it wanted to. This would be very easy to trade if we just knew it was gonna go up and down forever, right? But since we know that every 1 is a 3 and every 2 is a 4 and 5, they all fit together. But here's the catch, right? And these, by the way, sit together, so I'm gonna do that. 2 and 4 and 5 is the same, right? They're the same, so we know that. Number 1's job is to do what? To take out a low. Number 2's job is to take out number 1. Number 3's job is to take out number 2. Number 4's job is to do what? Yeah. Is it supposed to take out number 3? Yes. But it's also supposed to take out, this will mess with your heads, itself. And it's also supposed to take out number 1. Huh? Yeah, that's right. Which means that it's also supposed to take out number 3. Why? Because number 3 is a what? Is a 1, right? Okay. So hold on, I understand that's extremely autistic and confusing. I understand that. But stay with me. Number 4 and 5 have different scenarios based on what direction it wants to take next. When this sequence has been played out, we now wait and look what the price wants to do in order for us to get a new sequence to start to kick in and start playing out. Different scenarios. The first scenario is the price immediately just goes up. And we run the number 3. Look it runs number 3. It takes out number 3. Way bullish, amazing, right? Because we're going up. This tells us that the next sequence is going to be bullish. Here's the kicker that is not explained. If price wants to be bearish in this case, it's going to move up, potentially bounce between the 1's high and low, bounce around, and start heading back down lower. Meaning we are now what? We are now bearish, okay? We're now officially bearish. We're looking for the next sequence, the next number 2, to take us down lower in here. And in here, we're looking for the next 2 to take us up higher here. What does this imply? This implies that the number 4 and 5's job is to give us direction. And it's one of the most important structural ideas that I have with this system. Because what this means is that you will understand where the highest probability is for the market to move next. And if you can understand that part, you will now understand, together with the left out shit shows, for example up here, what the next best sequence is going to play out and how it's going to be played out. The 4 and 5 moves together with number 1, number 3, and itself to tell you if we're bullish or bearish. This means that 4 and 5, usually you can take a trade from here to head back up into the number 1. But after that, if price continues higher, you're now just guessing if it goes higher. If it goes lower, you're now just guessing if it goes lower. Because you do not know that yet until we either break this low or break this high. So what do, my friend? Yes, you wait. You wait and you wait for a high probability scenario to start playing out in your favor. You do not sit there and catch everything up and down, up and down, and up and down, right? You follow the flow. You don't fight it. Don't fight it. You follow the flow, you understand probabilities, and you follow in which direction the market is telling you to go. Oh yeah, guys, by the way, didn't I just tell you we're going to run this low? See this line? Run this low, tap back in here, head back up higher. What is this? This is a shit show level. Oh, look at that. He did it in hindsight as well. Again, no, it's kind of hard to do it in hindsight while I'm recording a video right in front of you. Again, right? So we can take this as an example. This is a number 2, this is a number 1, right? And this is a number 3, which means that this is most likely a 4 or 5. What does it want to do? We're going to run up into this level and this high at very most. It doesn't have to, but it can run up into these levels, bounce around in here, and I don't give a shit what it does. I do not care what it does, because it will tell me direction, and it will screw everybody in the meantime, while I'm just sitting here waiting for it to tell me, are we going to go up or are we going to go down? It's really up to the market. It's really up to the market, and I don't care. If it decides to go down, I'm following it down. If it decides to go up, I'm following it to the upside. I do not care what the Tesla Vortex volume indicator bullshit ass nails is saying. I'm following what the sequence is telling me right now. I'm following what the market is intending to tell me when I enter my trade. I'm looking to see, okay, are we bullish now or are we bearish? And if we turn bullish based on that, we run this high. Oh, look, guys, what a surprise. We run up into this area again. What a surprise, right? But if we run this 3 here, that will immediately tell me that, okay, we're most likely bullish. Do we have now anything to target through a newly created number 2, right? Through a newly created number 2 to head back up into a shit show level, right? So now, for example, perfect. Thank you, market, for showing me all kinds of different explanations. This is now bullish, for example. So what could you do? You can take a long setup from here, a short setup here, and then a long setup from here up until this high. But after that, now you're guessing. If price runs higher, you're now guessing. For example, one of my targets was this level. I know this is a shit show level high up here, for example, and we're looking to take this target out, for example. And, or wait, is this a shit show level actually? No, I think this is just a high actually. Could be a shit show, but I think it's a high actually. So what you need to understand in this is that, okay, let's say we don't have any shit show targets on the upside. Well, maybe you shouldn't look to take a long setup then, because now you're targeting not the shit show levels, but you're targeting just a specific high, and it's not as highly to take out as a high as it is to take out a shit show level that is usually an inside structure level to just run and then flip to the downside, right? Because what we know about, SMC and smart money concepts and, supply and demand and whatever works for you, we know that this up here is like a demand zone or whatever. I don't know. I'm not trading supply and demand, so I don't really know. Don't throw shit at me after this, but something with fill up their orders to go lower. Don't care, and I really don't care. But what is important for you to understand is that it tells us direction on how we can enter a trade to either side of the market. So if we, in this case, if this aligns with, let's say there's a shit show level up here, right? Here's the shit show level, right? If that's the shit show level, and we have the opportunity, because this sequence told us now that we are bullish and we don't have any more SS levels on the downside, guess where we are going? We're gonna go up until here. You're taking your entry from this level to head back up into this high. That's it. Because it has now broken number 3, which means what? We're bullish. It comes from a bullish sequence, plays out, goes up towards this high, right? And that's the beauty of this model, right? The beauty is that the 4 and 5 will now tell us where we are going next. It's now going to bounce on the 1, push down lower below the 4 and 5, which means that we're most likely going to be bearish now. So we're looking for a sequence to play out to the downside. In this case, we ran up into number 1 after running the shit show level, ran up, took out the number 3. We're now potentially bullish if we have something else to target. But if we do not have something specific to target, my friends, you do not take the sequence to play out. You instead do what? You wait and see what is happening. And as soon as something aligns with what you're targeting, you just follow the flow of it. Because there's always a sequence potentially playing out. And if it's playing out in your favor, you're going to be good to go. All right? So the number 4 and 5 has 3 different scenarios. It either just runs straight below a shit show level immediately and pushes us way back down, right? And doesn't, go back up into the number 1 high and low. Or it goes back up into the 1 high and low and just bounces around in there and then decides to go up or down. By the way, didn't I say that this is most likely going to be an SS if we run here? Yeah, probably like on a really low time frame. There's something to run down here. I don't know. But suddenly you have this situation where, okay, we run into the 1 high and low, bounce around in there, and then decides to go up or down. No matter what, you just know that we're most likely going to run up until this area from the 4 and 5, which is down here. Your entry is down here somewhere to find something, potentially this SNDR down here, or I think it's yeah, a zone responsible for a break, or I don't really know, but it's a zone down here. Let's say we're bouncing on it and then shooting right back up. You take your entry here to go back up into this level, because after this level you're now guessing. It can tick to this very level and then shoot right back down. So it's really up to you to decide what is a high probability and what is not. And let's say we can also just shoot like we did here. We just shot right back up through number 3. We're now bullish. And we can now look for a bullish sequence. If what? If it aligns with what we are targeting. And what are we targeting? Video 2. Video 2. We're targeting the shit show levels left out in the market. Right? That's what we're targeting. And guess what? We, right in here, didn't have any specific shit show levels to target. We had that one. We potentially had one over here. If you go back down into, yeah, you know what? This is actually a shit show level here. And I would also, that's a shit show level here for sure. I would actually potentially look into this level. I'm not sure because if you look at this, right? We have a push down, push up in here, push down in the same candle, a push up, and then shoot back down lower. So we most likely run a high here, then shoot back down, fail to run that shit show level, which means that this is a potential target. We could potentially say this is a shit show level as well, to be honest. But based on this candle, I can't really look into that right now. But I don't know what this candle is doing. If it firstly pushed down and then pushed back up, then this is a shit show level for sure. You can see it on the 15-second chart. We'll tell you exactly if it is or it's not, you know. But that might be a potential shit show level as well. I don't know. Let me just put it out. This is not a shit show level anyways. Well, no, a really ugly one if that would be the case. Yeah, it's potentially a very ugly shit show level if that would be the case. But so I wouldn't look into that. But sorry. So the 4 and 5, right? It runs number 3 in this case. We're looking for a bullish setup to potentially run into this high. We're following the flow from it, right? We're following it to the upside, right? And that's it. That's the only thing we're doing. We're following the flow to the upside, following through it, breaking new highs, up, 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 right? Until what? A new sequence is playing out. So how do we change direction? What did we just do here? Same shit, right? Up, down, up, number 2, number 1. Number 1's job is completely done here. Number 2's job is now officially done. This is an SS level. 4 and 5 runs back down in here. And let's say we're running the last SS to the upside. Guess what? The 4 and 5 is most likely going now to bounce on number 1 and look for a bearish movement. And what do you have in here? What do you have in here? The reason why you're getting screwed in your market structure shifts and your breaker blocks and this and that and this back and forth is because you are just being manipulated before the move is actually happening. That's it. Right? And we talked about this in video, I think it was video 2, where you do not need the shit show. I'm just telling you the fact that if you look at this very price right here, Dave's talking about it as well. What? It's the same thing. See it? Head and shoulders. Oh, it's a market structure shift. Oh, it's a unicorn breaker block with an imbalance and that fills up and goes to infinity. No. I'm just saying that there's a sequence to every flip. There is manipulation through all ways, back and forth, made for you to get screwed. And the shit show levels and areas make sure that you are not no longer being screwed over, right? As I said, this level was potentially a level where price can start to shoot back up from as we are bullish, probably like on a lower time frame. I would say that this is a really low probability to play out, so I would never take this long setup, but it could be, meaning that this long would need to go right back up into that high. We'll see if it does. So, and I'll set it. Let's see if it happens. But so number 4 and 5 gives you direction, right? So this basically means that now the circle is completed, right? The number 1 is first created into the number 2 that creates what? The shit show. Number 3's job is now to take that 2 out. If we do, we have the 4 and the 5, which potentially bounces on the 1. That tells us then direction through the other way. And guess what? The amazing thing about this, right, is that the number 2 is also 4 and the 5 on the lower time frame. And it's also a 1 on the lower time frame, which a 3 is a 1. And this is also a 2, which means that this is also a 3. So guess what? Now we have a whole different time frame to back us up in correlation to how price is moving. And guess what? In an even lower time frame, it's all in correlation with each other. Do you see how it all just fits together? It's all just perfectly fitting together. It's a 3 to the 1 to the 3 to the 1 to the 3 to the 1 to the 3 to the 1. In the same way, we can do this, right? 1, 3, 1, 3, right? 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, which is also a 3, which is a 1, which is a 3, which is a 1, which is a 3, which is a 1 here, which is a 3, which is a 1, which is a 4, 5. See, it's the same thing. What I've been talking about earlier. They're all sucked in, fitted together. They all fit together. And if you pair up these levels, these from 2 time frames. So what I mean by this is that you can literally have all of these timed up together, and that makes the strongest point in the market because it all focuses on that very specific price point. And when does this change? It happens over here. How does this rotation stop? It happens at the 4 and 5. When the 4 and 5 decides to do what? Run backwards, right? When the 4 and 5 does not decide to go into the 1, it goes into the 1, but then it bounces back into itself. That's a way better explanation, to be honest. When it goes here, but then it turns around into the 4 and 5. Because now we're what? Bearish. So now we're looking for a what? A number 2. That can do what? Create a number that has to create a number 1. 2 not runs number 1, which does what? Right? Do you see it? Suddenly you have a new sequence playing out in a whole different direction. So then it looks like this. Look at 2. It shoots back into number 1. Number 1, right? And then number 2 is created to go back into number 1. Which actually, no, my bad. Number 2 runs number 3 because 1 is created over here, my bad. Number 3, which creates the what? The 4 and 5 when we run number 2, which creates a potential go back into 1, which goes back into number 2, which goes back into number 3. And now we have a whole different sequence playing out again. And when 4 and 5 decides that we're going to change that, guess what happens? Bounce back. It creates a 2. It creates a 3. It creates... And now we're back in a whole different sequence. Do you see how they're all fitting together? As the 4 and 5 tells us we're bullish or bearish, we create a whole new sequence playing out until something else changes. When the flow changes in price, when 4 and 5 decides that we are in this time, we're going to bounce up into number 1 and then shoot back down lower instead. Then a whole new sequence is playing out, right? Yeah, see, it was a low probability here, by the way. But so what I mean is, if you look at this, there's just a sequence playing out until 4 and 5 decides, nope, now we're changing up the sequence. We're not going up anymore, we're going down. So now we're creating a whole new set of movement to the downside until it decides, nope, by what? Bouncing on 1, going back into itself, to go into a 3, to go into, you know, a 2, which, or it's a 4 and 5, which is basically a 1, and then it goes back into a 2, and then 3 and 4 and 5 until something else changes, right? So now we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between what? Bullish and bearish. What tells us if we're bullish or bearish? 4 and 5. So now you're kind of understanding the whole idea behind it. This is like the momentum. And this is what this is basically super deep dive into why it is happening and how it is happening, right? But in simple terms, what I'm trying to say is that actually, well, let's say it does. And let's say there's potentially like a super tiny SS in here as well that is left out on the market. And suddenly you have these POIs. Would you take a short here? No, I've already told you. Don't take a short there because this can easily just shoot back right up, take that high out, and then potentially plummet down if there's not a target up here. Um, so this is basically the sequences playing out. This is one sequence. This is one sequence. This is one sequence. This is one sequence that is failing. This is a failed sequence. This is also this is not a failed sequence. So that is a 4 and 5, and this is left out here. So we take that high out to basically cover our asses. But this is basically how the market looks like. And now you can start to see every high and low as of what they are. What is their purpose? They all have a purpose. Every tick has its purpose, right? You can talk about algorithms and this and that and here and there, right? But I don't really care, to be honest with you. I don't care because I want it just to work. And if it works, it works. I don't care, right? I don't need to know why and how it works. Well, how I do need to know how it works, but I don't need to know why. I just need to know that it works if I make it work because everything works if you can make it work. But if you do not work, then you cannot make anything work. And it's that simple. If you understand that part, that will make your life a way lot easier for you. Okay? And with this said, I want you to I want you to practice. I want you to practice, but more importantly, I want you to now that this is all over, I've put out the information out there again. There's of course so many advanced things to this when I understand that this will not be ran because of this. But guess what, my friend? You don't need that. You don't. You don't need the advanced things. If it complicates things for you, you do not need it. It might be fun to deep dive into it, but this is more than enough to make you profitable. P.S. I'm not a financial advisor. Go get some other help. I suck at trading. Um, but for real, you have to understand that you are the problem and you need to figure out how you see the market. And I guess I like, not guess, I really hoped somebody did that to me. And nobody ever did. Nobody ever did. I went through all the bullshit. And nobody was completely honest to me and told me, hey man, this, you just need to focus on yourself. Okay? You need to focus on yourself. You do not need this. You do not need 5 billion courses and super hard metrics and billions of indicators that do not work and are like way behind and slacking, or this and that, or add this to do this and this and that. No, no, no. You've misunderstood the concept behind adding something to a chart. It is to understand it and make it simple. But the more you add to it, the harder it becomes, because you now have reached the point of making it easy. Now you're instead making it hard because there's too many things you're looking at because you're trying to avoid your losses. I've been there. I've done that. Okay? I've done that. And mentors are not supposed really to give out, in my opinion, a bunch of models left and right, you know? What they're trying to do is make you understand what is what you like to see. That should be the goal. A lot of people have forgotten about it. Now I'm reminding everybody again that, or at least that's what I wish somebody reminded me of. A model is based on hoping that you will start to understand the market from your own perspective. The way the shit show model works is I hope to make that start something in your head and you go do something out of it. So you start to see it based on what? Your head, your preference, and your edge, your own mentality, your own brain, man. I can't jump and press this into your brain. It's not supposed to be like that. And that's why everybody's saying, like, why do you sell something that doesn't work? Dude, are you stupid? It might work for somebody. This might work for this person. This might work for that person. Maybe not for you, but you're just a dumbass if you think it should work for everybody. It doesn't. Why? Because everybody's different. That's the answer. You have to find what works for you, and that very thing right there, what I just said, is your edge. I don't care if this doesn't work for you. I just promised to push this out there because that's me, Jay, holding my promise. I'm staying true to myself. I'm pushing it out there. Is there a lot more to it? Yes. Do you need it? No. You can trade this and be extremely profitable. Extremely profitable. But you guys can't get that because your mind is screwed over and you think the more hard it is, the better. You make more money the harder it is. No. No, no, no. You misunderstood it. I did as well. The easier you make the market for yourself, the easier it is to trade. For yourself. So if you find something extremely easy that almost everybody understands and it's super basic, you count to 5. Now I'm saying this is potentially extremely complicated for a lot of people, but it's super simple for me. Why? Because it fits how I think. I think everything in a story. I create stories all the time in my head, right? Around the market. This does this does that. That's my edge. That's what I'm good at. That will become the edge for me forever. I create stories around price. That's it. So now you have in front of you exactly how it works and how I see price when we're bullish, when we're bearish, when we're going up, when we're going down, right? Would you look at that, guys? So by the end, we can just end the series. We're just saying that, whoops, tapped into it. I wonder where we're going next, right? I wonder where we're going next. And I wonder why I wanted to take a short from that tick. I wonder why I wanted to take that very short right there, right? All right. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned.